Hey guys, previously we talked about our two goals, which are first to love our God also with our mind, and second to also have fun. We also talked about Book 1 Chapter 1, and the two main points of Book 1 Chapter 1 are first, there's this thing called the law of human nature, and second, we are aware of this law of human nature but we break it. Now by this time you might be asking, okay, what does this law of human nature has to do anything with the proving the existence of God? Well, let's go through a background knowledge. There are three main arguments that are discussed between theists and atheists. First is the cosmological argument. Second, it is the argument of evil. And third, the argument of morality. Theist uses the cosmological argument to prove the existence of God by saying that in order for the universe to be created, there must be intellectual designer. Theist uses the argument of evil by saying if there is no God, how do we know what's evil? And theists also say that in order for an objective morality to exist, there must be God. In the book of Mere Christianity, book 1 is part of the morality argument. Okay, another background knowledge that I would like to go over is what's logic? Well, part of logic, there needs to be these two elements, which is validity and soundness. In validity, it follows this equation: A equals to B, B equals to C, and therefore A equals C. The first two equations, which is A equals B and B equals C, we call these equations premises. So A equals B is premise 1, B equals C is premise 2, and A equals C, we call that a conclusion. So in the argument of morality, premise 1 is in order for an objective morality to exist, there needs to be a God. Premise 2 is there is objective morality, and the conclusion is therefore God must exist. So in C.S. Lewis book 1 chapter 1, when he talked about the law of human nature, it is equivalent as the objective moral law. So he was basically trying to support that there is this thing called the objective morality. Okay, now let's talk about chapter 2. Chapter 2 talks about the two objections about the law of human nature. The first objection is, isn't morality just a herd instinct? Isn't it a natural instinct that is developed like our other instincts? Well, C.S. Lewis does not reject this idea about a herd instinct, but that's not what he means by a moral law. So he's trying to distinguish between a herd instinct and a moral law. And we all know what it means to be prompted by instinct. We want and desire certain things in a certain way, such as food or motherly love. And we do sometimes feel the desire to help someone, which can be a part of a herd instinct. But it is different from when we feel we ought to help someone whether we like it or not. An example that Lewis tells us for us to understand the difference is when we see a man drowning in water, we might have an instinct to tell us that, oh, maybe we should help this man, and that is a herd instinct. But we might have a stronger desire to run away from the situation for self-preservation. So now you're debating whether, should I help this man or should I just ignore this man? And sometimes we have a stronger desire to not help this man, right? Because we just want to be safe. But there is this inner voice suppressing that stronger desire in order to help that man. And that is what we call the law of human nature. And if the law of human nature was just simply a herd instinct, we should be able to use that instinct to tell which impulses are good or bad. But no one impulse can always be good nor bad. And the second objection about the law of human nature is, isn't it just a human convention? Something that is put into us through education? And C.S. Lewis says is, what we get from authority is not always a human convention. And he used the example of a multiplication table. If a child lives in a deserted island, whether he is educated or not, the multiplication table will not change. And therefore the multiplication table is not a human convention. And C.S. Lewis says that, yeah, the law of human nature is like the multiplication table. It won't be different whether we like it or not. So just like math, the law of human nature is just true. In order to support that moral law is just like math, he talks about moral progress. What is moral progress? Moral progress is a change for better. And we also judge others for them being morally right or wrong. And sometimes we talk about improving someone's morality. So what does it mean to improve someone's morality? Improving someone's morality, there must be the standard moral so that we can be closer to it. And when you say that one group of moral law is better than the other groups of moral law, it means that there is this standard moral law that your group is closer to that standard moral law compared to this other group. And we also have this clear picture of what it means to be more moral, right? And there are these people called reformers and pioneers, which means that these are people who understand the standard moral law better than their neighbors. So they're helping their neighbors to go closer to the standard moral law. So yeah, that's chapter 2. In chapter 2, he talks about the 2 objections. And the first objection was, isn't the law of human nature simply a herd instinct? And C.S. Lewis says no. There is a herd instinct, but the law of human nature is different from a herd instinct. And the second objection was, isn't the law of human nature a social convention? And he said, no, human nature is not a social convention, but rather it is one of those real truths that we get from our authorities. So that's it. Have fun and see you on Sunday.